Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. I appreciate you guys coming to our session. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and the Hurt Hub here at Davidson.
All right. Thanks so much, Josh. Hey, everybody. Great to be here with you this evening. Liz Brigham, Davidson class of '04. I was an English major. Unfortunately, I had a back injury and could not play tennis at Davidson. So that's kind of a bummer, but I love to cheer on the Wildcats. For the past 16 years, I've had a career in everything from Disney parks to political tech and the 2016 campaign, which seems very relevant today. Happy to chat about some of those pieces, as well as enterprise software companies and everything in between. So I have developed new products. I don't code, but I work very closely with engineers. I've developed new products, everything from mobile apps to Disney cruise ships, taken them to market. So happy to talk about anything in that realm too, just so y'all know my background. But I was also for the past 20 years since I first stepped foot on Davidson's campus, huge Davidson groupie. So I managed alumni chapters in Southern California and Portland, Oregon. I sat on the Alumni Association board as well as the Board of Visitors, and I had done lots. I didn't even know how much fundraising for the college over time, and certainly supported sports teams all along the way. So, anyway, it's a fantastic opportunity and just really great marriage of all the things that I love, and I have some professional expertise in coming back to you as the director of the Hurt Hub at Davidson. And I'm curious, and I know it's kind of late, and y'all are just kind of wrapping up the rest of your breaks or getting back to campus and kicking off sports. But I'm curious to see, from the crowd, either, take yourself off mute or put it in the chat. Like, how many of y'all know what the Hurt Hub is and does? Anyone? Oh, hey, Alexander. And Spencer. Oh, I see you too. All right. A couple names that I recognize here. Do y'all want to be volunteers and just speak a little bit to your experience with the Hurt Hub or what you know about the Hurt Hub?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I haven't done like a whole lot with the Hurt Hub, but um, I've joined Data Cats, which obviously right now doesn't work through the Hurt Hub, but normally that does. And then I'm part of the Gig Hub, so that's also through the Hurt Hub. And then I guess in general, the Hurt Hub's just a place where community members can work.
All right. Great. Thank you for that contribution and all your participation. Spencer, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have even less experience. I just know it relates to business and that it has offices that I'm pretty sure some local businesses work from. And I believe I think there's other programs that exist through it, and I am just oblivious to those. So,
Okay. No, that's totally fine. And obviously, I'm not going to bore you all with tons of PowerPoint, but I did want to give you a little bit of an introduction. So I'm going to share my screen quickly, and we'll start kind of at the beginning. Thank you for volunteering. These are just some overall, when we think about why we're here and what we're trying to achieve, we're really focused on three main audiences. There's some sub audiences within that, but like three main audiences and primarily students. And what we want to talk about is being a safe space for you all to take risks. And by that, I mean, there's no grades. No one is evaluating you necessarily on the work that you're doing there. However, it could lead to different jobs and other things, or perhaps even starting your own company, which I'm sure Owen will talk about and when we get into that portion. But we really see this as a fun place for you to stretch the limits of your curiosity and push on those ideas to test, and then support you in with things like mentorship and funding, which I'll get into in a little bit. Secondly, we really aim to build this lively community of alumni. So alumni not only sharing their stories and challenges and aspirations as somebody that you can look up to and kind of see yourself in because you have that shared experience of Davidson, but also to have a place to facilitate connections amongst alumni to hopefully build new businesses or drive innovation forward. And then third, and you all both touched on this, we do have a co-working community, which Owen can speak to a little bit as well. But really, it's an opportunity for the broader Davidson community to come to a very cool and innovative place locally. A lot of people are tired of working from home, and they need a quiet, but also at the same time, sometimes energetic place that has great coffee and good Wi-Fi speeds and all of that. And hopefully, we really aim to facilitate those meaningful connections amongst the community members. And we have some fantastic people with great experience and facilitate those interactions with students, again, faculty, staff, alumni. So that's kind of at a high level. And then getting into the specifics of what we offer, I just wanted to highlight this a little bit more. And certainly, you can check us out on our website for more information on all of these different places. It's the herthubdavidson.edu. And a few things. So 5 main areas. Really, first and foremost, we say Davidson quality programming. What does that mean? So it's really almost an augmentation to the curriculum that you all have. We're not trying to be a business school by any sense of or stretch of the imagination. But a lot of people have come to take classes around lean startup methodology and what does it even mean to put together a business case and a business plan? We've hosted startup weekends with groups like Techstars, which I've been a part of for the past 5.5 years or so out of Chicago. We just moved from Chicago. But that's one of the most famous tech incubators or even just business incubators at this point, not just in the US, but also globally. So we have a partnership with them. And then last week, we kicked off a new storytelling platform called Hub and Spoke, which I would encourage you all to attend. Happy to share some information about. But really, that's just an opportunity, kind of a podcast, Zoom webinar format for us to share those alumni stories with anybody who is interested and hopefully give a little bit of inspiration along the way. Secondly, we offer experiential learning classes. So maybe some of you all might have seen XPL 199. Our faculty in residence, Dr. Lori Heyer, teaches that class, and it's really an opportunity for you to have a spring or fall internship in conjunction with a class, get credit for it, but really get some good hands-on experience. I know a couple of you all mentioned Data Cats and Gig Hub. I'll pause for a moment to talk about Gig Hub in particular. We see a lot of students as the Gig Hub is their first sort of entry point into the Hurt Hub if they haven't been coming to study, but the Gig Hub really gives you an opportunity for shorter term projects, anything from data analysis to social media marketing and a whole host of other things in between, and to get paid for it. So these are sort of micro internships where you can get a sense for working with a third-party client and building up your professional skill sets as well. And I know I only have a few more minutes left, so I'll get through the rest of these pieces and we can talk to anything else that might appear in the Q&A later. Co-working membership, already mentioned that. That's where the community is coming in, either a drop-in case or in the case of a dedicated office. The Mentor Network is something where we have partnered with another local group called Launch Lake Norman, and traditionally, this is, there's an application process and it's been a little bit more formalized insofar as, hey, you have an idea, it's been vetted a little bit in the market, and you're really looking for experts in the field of your focus to help you push that idea forward. We are in the process of pulling together more of a stable of alumni mentors who be available for students who are much earlier in the process. We heard as we were doing a lot of market research and speaking to students that they have these ideas, but you might not be at a place where you've really solidified that customer base or have a good understanding of what you want to go do. So we're working on building that out. And then lastly, capital. Everybody needs dollars. So everything from the failure fund, which is micro grants of up to $1,000 just to go prototype and test your ideas. And whether that's going to Home Depot and buying things or, some just trying out different things with different pieces of software, et cetera.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was getting a little bit of feedback. And then the last two, the Avenger Fund competition and the Venture Fund competition, are much more formal, case competitions and pitches. The Avenger gives up to $15,000 in smaller grants and generally broken up into multiple winners. And then the Venture Fund has been historically up to $25,000 for one group in particular. And that can be either current students or up to 5 years out for alums as well. So that was a quick breeze through all things Hurt Hub. Like I said, I will, beginning February 3rd, I'm also going to be hosting office hours, open office hours every day from 3:30 to 4:45. So I can, share some more information with y'all on that, but always happy to speak to either, anything that you're interested in with respect to the Hurt Hub or my network or my previous experience, so I can get you connected. So thanks so much, Josh and everybody, for getting us kicked off. I think, am I going back to Tabis?
Yeah, so hey guys, quick intro. I'm a junior here at Davidson. I play on the men's soccer team. And Josh said I'll be the mediator today. But I just wanted to quickly introduce Andrew. Andrew is a former student at Davidson. He graduated in 2019. He played on the baseball team, and he is now the CEO and co-founder of a company called Lucid Drones Technologies. So I'll just hand it over to Andrew.
Thank you for that introduction, and happy to be here tonight speaking with you all. It's a little bit surreal because not too long ago I was sitting where you all are. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk a little bit about the evolution of our company and the different ways in which we leverage Davidson, the hub, and the Launch LKN community to really act as a springboard for our company. So for brief context, at Lucid, we build industrial drones and lease them for cleaning purposes. And I know that sounds a little bit esoteric, but let me show you what that means. This is actually a video of our disinfecting drone being used by one of our NFL customers to help make game day possible. In addition to the disinfecting drone, we've also developed a cleaning drone that can clean windows, brick, roofs, allowing us to safely relocate workers to the ground and clean more efficiently. And this was actually a video taken at Belk. So I think the best place is really to start at the beginning, because to be completely candid and transparent, at the start, we had no idea what we were doing. This is actually the first picture the three of us co-founders ever took. We were all juniors, Davidson at the time, and we took this on a really small, low-quality camera on a drone, and we're right in front of our good old Wildcat statue. And to tell you the truth, we didn't really have an idea of what kind of business we wanted to build at the beginning. We really started out of humanitarian concern, where we recognized the problem and we wanted to find the solution. We saw these workers suspended from lifts, ladders, scaffolds, well above ground, trying to wash windows, trying to pressure wash the side of a building. And we were just appalled that no one had found a way to leverage existing technology to make that a safer job. And we wanted to set out to do just that. We were going to find a way to retrofit drones and allow them to fly up to great heights and clean the sides of buildings while relocating those workers to the ground. So it was a slow and humbling journey in many ways. And we spent countless hours in my dorm room researching the market, trying to understand what it was we wanted to build. And we actually applied for the Avenger Scholarship. We got an interview and we got turned down. And I think that was our first true encounter with failure with our startup company, but it was far from the last. And what I later heard from people close to that scholarship program is they thought we wanted to buy a drone to fly it into a building, which was a rather funny use case for drone technology. So what we ended up doing is we knew we wanted to pursue this idea. When the Avenger was no longer on the table, we pulled together our savings accounts. We wanted to take the path of least resistance. We went out and we bought a third-party drone that we just retrofitted to couple with a pressure washer to figure out if we could get it to clean. And our first proof of concept drone I think it had about 30 zip ties, 2 pounds of duct tape, and looked just terrible. But it was good enough for us to prove that conceptually drone cleaning could work, but we still had a long way to go. So fast forward to the spring of our junior year, and we actually applied for the venture fund competition. And at this time, we thought that was everything. We're like, oh my gosh, if we can win the venture fund competition, we're going to be set, because we just had our eyes on the prize money. We're like, if we win this money, we can go buy a bigger drone, prove out more things. This is going to be a home run. Unfortunately, startups are a lot more difficult than just capital. But what ended up happening through the venture fund is when we were selected as a finalist, we got teamed with a group of local mentors from the Launch Lake Norman community. And that was undoubtedly the most monumental moment in our company's history, because we went in there with what I would say was just an idea. We had a drone that could clean buildings, but we had no semblance of what a business really was. And by the end of our time with those mentors, we had really figured it out, and we'd consolidated this business plan, these financial projections, and knew what we wanted to be when we grew up, more or less. And what happened during the process of this venture fund competition is we would meet with our mentors once a week. It was almost like having a separate class, which may sound daunting, but it was such a rewarding experience because it was a real world application. We were getting to learn so many things that we just didn't have the chance to get exposed to with, say, the traditional day in, day out liberal arts education. And I still remember our first mentor meeting. Here we are, 3 liberal arts students. Between the 3 of us, Adrian's a philosophy major, I majored in economics and Spanish, and David majored in math and econ. There's not an engineer on the team, and we wanted to start a drone technology company. And one of the mentors looked at us and said, "Are you guys serious about this, or is this a joke?" And it was far from a joke, and we took that venture fund competition very seriously, and we're fortunate to win it. And coming out of that venture fund competition, we started talking with some local angel investors through Launch LKN, started networking with different startup accelerator programs for that summer between our junior and senior year. And the recurring theme of those conversations was, hey, we like the product, we really like this idea, we think it could be great and all, but it's not great as a side project. If you were to come out here and work on this idea all summer and we gave you money to do it, would you go back to Davidson in the fall? And as you all know, we worked very hard at Davidson to earn that degree. So we're like, of course we're going to go back to Davidson. Why would we just give up when we only have 1 year left? Fortunately, I looked at my transcript and realized I was in a position to graduate a year early while Adrian and David finished their senior year. And I set out on making this company my full-time job, which was incredibly humbling, challenging. And to be honest, my teammates thought I was crazy. My friends thought I was crazy. My family definitely thought I was crazy, but it's been one of the most rewarding experiences. But once I graduated, I started on this long journey to find product market fit and understand what product did we need to build for our customers and would they actually be willing to pay. So I traveled all over the country. I was in Maryland, Alabama, Miami, Georgia, cleaning every building we could possibly come across just to prove that drone cleaning could work. What ended up happening is we learned that relying on third-party Chinese-made drones was not a sustainable business model. We had 3 different drones go down. And during that time, we weren't quite sure what to do. We spent a lot of time talking to our local Launch LKN mentors, talking to other people we'd networked with at the hub. And we were at a point where we were about to run out of money, run out of time, and sacrificing my senior year would have been for nothing. And we ended up throwing a Hail Mary pass and said, we're going to learn to build our own drones. And although that seemed like a really steep task, I think we don't give ourselves enough credit as liberal arts students at Davidson College. What the liberal arts education does really well is it teaches you to learn. We're all pretty much like sponges, where if you go out and you set your mind to something, you have all the resources at your disposal in this internet-enabled world. You can go on Google, you can go on YouTube, you can learn what you want to learn. So I just dove headfirst into learning how to build drones. So what ended up happening is I lived in an attic above a garage of one of our investors. And over the course of 3 months, I think I rarely left this room. And you can see my rescue golden retriever, who was my faithful companion during this time. And all I did was read dozens of books on drones and robotics, watch endless drone building videos, and read countless drone building forums. And at the end of 3 months, we emerged with a drone that could lift 3 times the payload of this third-party drone we'd been using. And I'd programmed it to the point where I could flip a switch on the transmitter and the drone would fly and clean for itself. With that story and technology traction, we applied to Y Combinator, which is a famous accelerator program out in the Silicon Valley, and ended up getting in and got to join companies like Airbnb, DoorDash, and learn from some of the greatest minds in the startup world, which was just an amazing experience. And we slowly but surely grew up as a company. We ended up upgrading to working out of garage, Oakley still ever present, helping build the drones. And following our Y Combinator experience, we ended up raising roughly $1 million from different Silicon Valley investors to continue to work on our idea, hire employees, build our company. And we finally moved out of a garage and into an office. And our landlord hated that he had to lease this office to us. Nobody had touched it in, I think, over a year. And he looked at us. We were 22-year-old kids at the time. And I remember he told us, he said, "You're going to be out of business in 6 months, and I hate that I'm leasing this to you." So it was a lot of doubt along the way and a lot of challenges. But sure enough, we went on. We hired our first 3 employees, launched our first cleaning company that was leasing a cleaning drone from us. We were about to launch our second. All of a sudden, the pandemic hits. The common feedback we got from people who did exterior cleaning was, look, people aren't in office buildings. People aren't really showing up to college campuses. No one cares about how clean the outside of a building is. But we're being overwhelmed with disinfecting. And the biggest challenge right now is how can we disinfect these large facilities with regularity and efficiency? So we ultimately pivoted, and in a matter of weeks, we're able to put together a disinfecting drone and start to go after that customer base. And today, I'm happy to say a lot of those lonely nights and difficult moments have all been worth it. We're building and launching both disinfecting drone customers and cleaning drone customers. We're working with some really exciting customers like the Atlanta Falcons, Texas A&M, and we actually just signed our first NBA customer, which we're really excited to launch here in a couple of weeks. We've raised $2.5 million in venture capital funding. And at times early on in this company, we hadn't raised a single dollar. I had no salary. I was living off of like $15 worth of rice and beans every week. So it's really progressed a long way, all the way to the point where we ended up being afforded opportunities like getting on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. And we've just continued to utilize our resources at the hub, and really more than anything, those mentors we got from the venture fund competition and the Launch LKN community. Of those 4 mentors we had for the venture fund competition, 3 are current investors in our company and still active members on our board of advisors. So it's been, when I said it was the most important moment in our company's history, I wasn't kidding. We still to this day have regular monthly meetings with those individuals who continue to teach us new things and provide really valuable insight. Above all, though, I think the most exciting part of this journey is roughly 2 years ago, I was the one full-time employee at the company. And today we have 17 employees. And out of those, 4 of them are Davidson athletes. And I think my favorite part about having Davidson athletes as coworkers is kind of twofold. Davidson teaches you how to learn really well and be versatile because you can pick up new skills quickly. And for the most part, you guys are really good with written and oral communication, which is incredibly valuable in the business world. And then the second part is you're athletes, and sports just inherently teach you discipline and work ethic. So we absolutely love our Davidson athletes. And I think if there's anything I really want you to take away from this talk, it's a few things, but first and foremost, it's utilize your resources. The hub actually wasn't officially built until the summer after I graduated, but even still, I continued to use it and leverage those resources. And I promise you, it is well worthwhile. There are classes and programs that I could have only ever dreamed of having access to while I was originally starting out this company. And I think one important message every Davidson athlete and really student more generally needs to hear is you're not as busy as you think you are. And I remember when I was a Davidson student athlete, I especially my freshman year, it was like this culture where we all wanted to almost compete about how busy we are. But I promise you, if you're disciplined and you set your priorities, you can make time for anything you want to. And I highly encourage you guys to make time to leverage the hub's resources. Because once you graduate, there's more than just going on to consulting, going into banking, or going on to grad school. Entrepreneurship is an excellent route for each and every Davidson student. And I really highly encourage you each to pursue that because you have so many excellent mentors in the local community, in the alumni network. And all you have to do is what's sometimes scary is walk across that railroad track and walk in the front door of the hub. But I promise it's not that far away. I think the third important thing I want you to each take away is failure is not final. And as Davidson student athletes, I think we often shy away from failure. We don't want to lose. We don't want to get a bad grade. And what entrepreneurship and startups is really all about is being okay with failure, but more importantly, learning how to fail quickly. Because failure is never final when you use it as a springboard for future success. It's really an opportunity and a platform that enables you to learn from your past experiences and mistakes, and then discern what's the best path forward to continue iterating, continue growing as a person, growing as a company, whatever it may be. The fourth big one is entrepreneurship has been one of the most humbling yet rewarding experiences of my life. And I would do it time and time again. I've got to meet and learn from the co-founders at Airbnb, receive investments from some of the most famous investors in the world, work with really exciting professional sports teams as customers, and ultimately grow a dream team of coworkers who are so exceptionally brilliant. I show up to work every day inspired and continue to learn and grow from these people who now work with us. And the very last point I want to say here is don't be afraid to dream big. And I really don't want to sound cliche because, everybody uses the line like, if people aren't laughing at your dreams, you're not dreaming big enough. But it's true. When I decided to graduate early, focus on this company full time, with how little we had developed and how much risk there was in that decision, everybody laughed at it. If you ask the guys at the baseball team on the baseball team at that time, they thought I was crazy. And to be honest, they were probably right. I was crazy. I still am crazy. But it's now provided this wonderful platform where I've been afforded the opportunity to learn more than I ever could have imagined going to an MBA program. I've gotten to meet and network with people that I can't even imagine having ever met in my life. And it was all because I was willing to embark on this entrepreneurship journey. And again, I really owe it all in hindsight to those mentors, to the venture fund competition, because they really challenged us early on to learn, grow, take this business seriously, but ultimately give us the confidence we needed to pursue entrepreneurship as a legitimate path for us after graduation. And there's never really been a moment of regret ever since. So with that, I'll end my rant. And if anybody has questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, so I think we're going to transition over to the panel now, as Andrew said. But right before we do that, I want to allow Owen to introduce himself and take it away, Owen.
Hi, well, I'm Owen Bezic, and thank you, Andrew, for that talk. I see a lot of parallels between my journey right now and yours, including graduating early, taking some time to work on my company. And I think mine's where yours was probably 2 or 3 years ago. So I started a company last year that focuses on building software for facility planning for hospitals, which again is esoteric, but it's essentially helping managing hospitals with their master strategic planning and budgets that last over 10 years long. And this all started out of the Gig Hub program, working with a coworker at the Hurt Hub. And now I go there every week for meetings and am essentially a coworker now. So it's interesting to see how it started as a student and pretty much now a coworker.
Thanks, Owen. And with the panel, this panel is just the questions, the Q&A. You can ask anybody on the panel here, Liz, Owen, and Andrew. They obviously all have different experience and different expertises. So any questions, you guys can feel free to put them in the chat, or don't be afraid to speak up, turn off the, or unmute yourselves and speak out.
Hi, I'm Max Feeling. I guess I'll go ahead and kick it off, and this can really be for the whole panel, but I am I'm a senior, so I have 1 semester left with Davidson, but I went from maybe pre-med, like I'm sure a lot of Davidson people do, to conservation biology, and have really enjoyed like my presence in kind of learning about the sustainable development and tourism industry. And I have a few kind of ideas in that lens. But basically the saying is like the best time to start is now, even if that's spring of senior year. And I was wondering if you guys could let me know what some of the best ways to work with the hub for this semester might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. A couple things, and we are I think I see Kevin Cook is on here too, so I wanted to give a little shout out to Kevin, who's on our team in sort of special projects mode. But basically, what we would want to do, did you say it was Max or Maximilian?
It's Max.
Max. Okay. Hey, Max. So Max, basically coming into the office hours that I mentioned at the beginning of the call would be a good place to start. We can sit down and just have a quick chat, get a little bit more detail as to kind of where you are. And with that initial sort of conversation, then, your path can go in a whole host of different ways, whether it's, recommending that you might take this lean startup class that we're going to be kicking off again in February, which is open to students as well as community members, or it could be, hey, let's go find you an alum that is in your space that could serve as a sort of very early stage mentor. Could go in a whole host of different directions, but I think the first step is really just coming to those open office hours so that we can have a conversation and point you in the right direction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question for Liz, probably. I'm Jesse, by the way. So I think that there's like a program for like getting an internship at a startup or something I saw on the website, but I'm just wondering with COVID, is that service kind of like depleted because less startups are looking for interns during like a time like this?
Yeah, interesting. I think you might be referring to Gig Hub. Potentially, you're talking about the micro internships. Yeah,
probably.
We've actually seen an increase over the past year, and I started back in October. But just in speaking with Kelly Weaver, who's on my team, who manages the Gig Hub program, we have well over 200 student Gig Hub consultants at this point, and some students have been working multiple gigs at once. And Owen, I'll put you on the spot a little bit to speak specifically to your experience, but in fact, the flexibility, because so many people are, working from home or working in different places, remote really hasn't been an issue at all. And a lot of, I would say, our coworkers in particular have been great Gig Hub clients and people who are hiring students because they see and they know the value of Davidson and what those students can bring to the table. So I would highly encourage you, if you are interested in that, to apply to be a Gig Hub consultant. speak with Kelly Weaver, and maybe Owen, you can fill in a little bit of details from your experience.
Yeah, I've had a great experience with the Gig Hub. I think I've worked probably 4 or 5 of them at this point, and I believe I mentioned before, initially the company I'm working with now started as a Gig Hub and transitioned into actually creating something else. But in the meantime, when we're in these startup phases and I've needed to make some money on the side and work on other projects, I've picked up Gig Hub projects to expand my knowledge base and the projects I've worked on, and also get some extra money in the meantime. And I've worked with a number of great people, including people at the college, as well as people that have gone to Davidson and are now working on side projects and needed extra help. So from web development to making market videos and anything in between, there's a whole list of skills that a lot of Davidson students have that Gig Hub employers are looking for.
And one thing, thanks, Owen. One thing I'll just tack on to the end of that, we're working really closely with Jamie Staney and the Center for Career Development as well to help you all take what your experiences in Gig Hub and translate those into what's on your resume and talking points for interviews and other things. Because sometimes, titles might not necessarily always translate to a job that you're applying for out in the real world, but we really want to help you strengthen those story points, and Gig Hub is a perfect way to get more sort of at-bats, as it were, versus a longer term summer internship or something like that.
I think I got a question here in the chat. And so the question says, I'm curious if any of the panelists have any advice for how us students can begin to develop our big ideas into business models. I guess any of you guys can go ahead and jump on that one.
Ooh, I have a lot of advice on this one, but I'll try to keep it concise. I think the biggest way to figure out what you're trying to build and what your business model is going to be is talking to customers, because one of my biggest learning lessons from the startup experience is we wasted a tremendous amount of time because we were scared to talk to customers, to pick up the phone, to call someone, because at the end of the day, in order to find product market fit and know what do you price, what is your business model, that all revolves around what the customer wants and what provides them the most amount of value. So I think when you're early on trying to build your minimum viable product, figure out what your ultimate business model is going to be, the best thing you can do is try to get feedback from potential customers and not be too rigid in your thinking. So pick something that you think could work for customers and see what they have to say. Oh, if I price it at this, is it attractive? And if they say no, then keep getting some more input and continue to iterate. But one thing I think we struggled with a little bit early on is we built this business model, built what we thought the pricing should be, but didn't spend enough time talking to customers. And we were a little bit slow to then adapt to what the market was telling us. And what I really wish we had done is spend the time up front, getting as much input from customers so that we could have learned that lesson more quickly.
Yeah, I would just emphasize that, and I'm not in my office at the moment, but I have a wooden block because one of my former teams at Morningstar said I said this so much, but empathy is currency. The more, and there's a line from Stanford Design School too that says, get curious, talk to people, try stuff. And honestly, it does not need to take a ton of time. You don't need to go do fancy focus groups or anything like that. In fact, in the first 6 weeks that I was leading the Hurt Hub, we talked to over 100 people across students, faculty, alumni, and co-working staff, just to get a sense for, hey, we already have a product and multiple products out in the market, i.e. the Hurt Hub exists, but what's your experience of it? What are your perceptions of it? What else could we offer that would be more interesting? And from that, we've basically pivoted a lot of our positioning and what we're bringing to market. So we're kind of in a meta mode, if I have any English majors out there, but of taking all the things that I've done for the past 16 years in building and taking things to market, like I said, from mobile apps to Disney cruise ships, and applying that to the Hurt Hub as if it were a brand new business as well. So we very much are drinking our own champagne, as they like to say, and operating the Hurt Hub as a startup, just in the ways that we would advise y'all to do the same.
Thank you, Liz and Andrew. I got another question. This one's for you, Andrew. It says, how do you go about marketing your company, and has it changed since starting your company?
Yes, it's evolved a lot. I'd say early on, we did almost no marketing, and a lot of that was, not what we should have done. It was very much the incorrect way to go about it. I think the one thing that worked out well for our company is what we do. It's eye catching. Like, have you ever stopped and watched somebody wash windows for minutes on end? The answer is probably no. But when you pull a drone out and you go and clean a building, all of a sudden it becomes a spectator sport. So I think we got really lucky with kind of word of mouth and other people talking about our company, that we didn't necessarily have to do much marketing to generate like inbound demand. But now we're at the point in our company's history where we really recognize how valuable developing better marketing content is. And it's also kind of a forcing function for you as, say, a founder of the company to better understand your sales processes by locking in what your messaging is. Because if you can really clearly articulate your product's value propositions, it's, a crucial part of your marketing story, but then it also helps you sell. And in my opinion, revenue is a way to fix just about every issue in a business. It can create more problems, but usually bringing in revenue creates the good kinds of problems.
Thank you, Andrew. I got a question for Liz, actually. So I know that you had talked about coming into the Hurt Hub to talk about, starting ideas, if you needed to start thinking about the mentorship programs that you guys have, or partnering with people, the different classes and different opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about, is it just focused on startup companies, or is it also focused on, let's say somebody comes in and says, I want to build a nonprofit. Here's my idea, here's my proposal, here's what I have done. Is it only geared towards startup businesses, or is it also geared towards people interested in doing things of that nature as well?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Primarily, we are focused on for-profit entities. In the nonprofit space, we're partnering really closely with Stacy Reamer and the Center for Civic Engagement for any sort of nonprofit pieces. So if anything, that might be the clearest line of distinction, but nonetheless, do know, there are many for-profit entities out in the world that still have some sort of social impact component. So that's something to think about, that we could talk through as well. But yeah, we're working really closely with our partners in the Center for Civic Engagement on anything that would be specifically nonprofit focused.
Thank you, Liz. And one more for Owen and Andrew. This one will be kind of geared towards you guys. So I know, Andrew, you kind of talked a little bit about how you had some ups and downs. There's a lot of doubters, a lot of people kind of sometimes saying this is not going to be a great idea, or this may not work out. I know that kind of gets to a lot of us if we're thinking about building a company. We kind of always think about like, what's the negatives, what can go wrong, before we think about what can go right. I would just kind of ask, how do you kind of get through those seasons of ups and downs, and kind of, I know it feels like in those seasons of downs, you kind of have to get your way out of the mud type. So can you just give a little advice on how to continue to be consistent in the pursuit for the end goal?
Yeah. Oh goodness, that's such a great question. So to whomever asked that, thank you. I think it's often neglected, but being a founder of a startup company, it is really challenging. And the things that have helped me the most, I'd say one is building a really good support network and ecosystem. And what I learned later on at Davidson was, generally speaking, people want to help. And the best thing you can do is ask, because if you don't ask, the answer is no. So I really sought out mentors Like one of my favorite mentors, I met him through the hub, and he's a big time VC. And even to this day, I regularly just say, "Hey, can we do a pulse check? Like, I'm really struggling with this." And he's kind of been there, done it, seen it. Um, Same thing. I built a really close relationship with one of our investors who's been the CEO for a lot of really large companies. So, like, he's been there, he gets it, he knows it. So, being able to surround yourself with a network of like-minded people who've kind of gone through it, I think that's been one of the most impactful things for me. But then also being able to, I think, zoom out and take a bigger life perspective and try to ground that perspective in gratitude, because every one of us on this call tonight is privileged in one way or another and really blessed with the opportunities we have to, play a Division 1 sport, pursue a higher level education. And when you really look at the problems we face as, say, a startup founder, they're trivial compared to some of the more extreme conditions that humanity as a whole faces. So it's hard to feel down about, oh, we didn't close a sale, when people are going hungry or don't have a place to sleep at night.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Andrew said. And just to follow up, I just think maintaining an action mindset and just thinking of whether or not you're going to email that person or whether or not that person could help you or not. It doesn't matter if they can, but if you don't reach out, you won't know. And when things get tough, just doubling down on it and recognizing that if you're going to work hard to put in the time and effort into it, you're going to get that out most likely. So just keeping up with what you've got going. And yeah, good words from Andrew there.
Thank you, Owen and Andrew. So another question, this one is from actually me. Curious to find out, so I know we throw around, and I know that they had other meetings as well. I actually was on a meeting the other week with Davidson alumni named Cam Hauser. He talked a lot about networking. And so, you guys even talked about networking just now. And I feel like networking kind of sounds like a big daunting word to some of us. A lot of us, like, you talk about reaching out to people if you need help. And I think sometimes people get confused of how do I do that, or how do I approach that? Do I just reach out to somebody that I don't know because I'm a Davidson student and they're a Davidson alum and say, hey, I need help? Is that how it works? Or can you just kind of talk a little bit, and this is to all of you guys, anybody, how do you kind of establish the relationship between anybody for that per se, to kind of begin to help you move along with any problems that you're currently facing?
I can start. I will say networking and reaching out and not being afraid to reach out has probably gotten me every single job I've ever had. And even so far as, this is, and people who have been on advisory boards that I've held. I was telling the story the other day that a woman on my advisory board for software at Morningstar studied abroad with me and, went to NC State, and we didn't talk for, I don't know, 16 years or so. And then I saw, oh, she's a financial advisor and she's using my product. So I'm absolutely going to reach out to her, even though we hadn't spoken in 16 years. So I would say the number one thing that has always worked for me is doing my homework. So before reaching out, even if I just see, oh, they went to Davidson, quick Google search. And we're not talking hours, right? But what are they interested in? Have they written articles about a particular topic, et cetera, and so on? I'll tell a quick story. So before COVID happened, and I think all of us in this line of work, we're interested in being entrepreneurs, or we were since the day we were born. In my case, I think that way. But I was putting together a sort of side hustle and a new business idea in the music industry, and I was concert committee chair at Davidson. And there were a couple people who are now, like REM's manager, and who has been their manager since 1978, is a Davidson grad. I love REM. I love that band, and I have for a really long time. But I had no business reaching out to Bertus Downs, who like manages their multi-million dollar, catalog. But I did my homework and said, hey, I realized that you kind of fell into this role managing REM when you were a law student because you were in the same bar that they were, you know, and I managed to connect that back to helping local musicians get their start and local musicians who were, you know, just kind of playing dive bars and things like that. So any way that you can, and he responded, and we've now, you know, created kind of a relationship all around the music industry. But any way that you can personalize and show that you have done your homework and you've read a couple articles, or, you know, putting that even into one sentence, I think goes a long way. And like I said, it's maybe 30 minutes of work, if that. But showing that means so much more than just the random like LinkedIn in-mail that we all get a ton of, and asking a very specific question. Like, I have this problem, or I am seeking this information, or I am seeking to get, you know, more connected to XYZ person for this purpose. So again, do your homework, be specific about the ask. And then I always, you know, definitely follow up with a thank you note. Sometimes people forget. And that goes a long way. And then if you're so enterprising as to put together an Excel spreadsheet or your own sort of, you know, customer relationship management type of tool, just so over time, even if you have one conversation with them, you know, a couple of years later, following up and giving them an update, say like, hey, you really helped me in this way. Here's where I am with this. Here's a quick check-in. Those are some of the pieces I think over the last, like I said, 16 or so years that have been really helpful for me in propelling my career forward.
Just to quickly touch on that as well, Liz, you brought up a lot of great points. I think one thing is just look at your immediate resources. So like talk to Liz about mentorship opportunities at the hub, look more into Launch LKN and get connected there with their group of mentors. Also, look to your coaches for, you know, alumni of your team, because I've really built my network a lot through not just Davidson alumni, but really specifically through baseball alumni as well. And I think the one thing I've learned more than anything about networking is it's kind of like compound interest. The hardest part is getting started, but then once you start to build a good core network, you can keep asking for introductions. So like when you get a good contact, you shouldn't just stop there. You should then say, hey, would you be willing to introduce me to another 2 or 3 people in this space? I'd love to keep learning. And then that's how you start to build your network, where early on in the company, I felt like it took me forever to learn things. But now if there's a question I want to talk about, or there's a part of the market I don't understand, I can go into my network and be like, well, who has experience in this space? And I just solve things much more quickly. So I think this was really an inertia thing. The hardest part is getting started, but then the key to keeping your momentum is once you form a really good relationship with someone, it's being willing to ask, hey, would you be willing to introduce me to somebody else like you? Or again, whatever you're looking to learn or do, you can tailor it to that, but just keep the momentum and don't be afraid to keep asking for help.
Yeah. And as the most recent Davidson student, I'll say that's really good advice on a macro level, but on a micro level, when you're sending that email, just don't be afraid to carry yourself professionally and think of their perspective when they're going to get that email. How is it going to come across? And just, you know, always be friendly. And I'm sure as Davidson students, everyone can do that. But again, the thank you notes, that's always really nice, because imagine if you're in their position. I mean, I'd be so humbled and excited to receive any sort of ask for any resources or help from anyone. And then a thank you note on top of that is just even better. So just always remembering that.
Yeah. And I would add, you know, of course, I'm going to plug career services here, but, you know, Davidson Connect's a new tool. That's something that we're really pushing a lot right now. If you haven't gotten on it, I would highly recommend it, davidsonconnect.com. There's a tutorial online on our careers page. But especially for those of you guys that are athletes, and even if you're not, you know, you could be from Baltimore, there's an alumni group for that. You could be interested in tech, there's a group for that. For all of your sports, there's groups for that. More groups are being created. We're trying to build those out, so connect that way. Then two, you know, if you're not sure where to start, come see us. You know, Andrew's on this call and it's been really, really beneficial because he reached out to me saying, hey, I have a job. Do you know anyone? So, you know, always feel free to come to us. I talk with alumni every day. So I may not know everyone, but I may know people that could help get you started. And then like Andrew said, then they're a good connection. Then you build off of that. The next thing you know, that first one was free. It's easy, but then you can do all the work from there. So that's my plug. I'll turn it back to you, Tavis.
Well, thank you guys so much. That was fantastic advice. And I know we're kind of getting close to time. If anybody else has questions, you can still ask, put in the chat, or of course, unmute yourselves. And if you don't, and you come up with a question later on, as Josh King, Liz, all of these people on the panel here, Owen and Andrew as well, I'm sure they would definitely be super happy and excited to hear and receive any kind of feedback, questions, thoughts, comments, etc. From anybody. So yeah, I mean, if there's any more questions.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, great.
Liz, you mentioned that the idea of keeping a spreadsheet from conversations you've had over years. Do you actually keep track of conversations you've had with people over like years and what's led from them?
I do. I don't have, so I have various versions of them, mostly tied to the ideas that I was pursuing at the time. Like I said, I constantly have wheels going of different things that can go, but yeah, so it's been extremely helpful because I take a lot of notes. I used to handwrite notes, and I had just like notebook upon notebook upon notebook that I would save, and some of them are kind of funny because I had things from like Davidson that I can go back to and read. But yeah, it's just a simple spreadsheet layout of who did I talk to, what's their primary contact information, their LinkedIn or their personal website, whatever is most appropriate, and then some quick notes about what we talked about. And then what I also have done in the past is I set myself Outlook reminders for when to go back and follow up with people. So even if we didn't specify, hey, let's get back together in 2 weeks, I'll sometimes set like an Outlook calendar invite for myself, like 6 months down the road, and be like, oh, I need to go, send a note to Bob and give him an update on things. Now, this is a hacked version of customer relationship management software that's out there. Like my husband works for Salesforce, so Salesforce or HubSpot or anything like that. I don't think you guys are going to go out and pay thousands of dollars for a license. So Excel works just fine. But you gotta find whatever works for you. I'm just an Excel person, so.
I just have a quick question, another quick question for the panel. Just looking at like the Amazon entrepreneurship books, I have like no idea where to start. I was wondering if anyone on the panel had like a recommendation for like their go-to book.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Done.
I think 0 to 1 is a really good book. Depending upon the type of company you want to start. The Lean Startup is also a really good one, and you'll hear a lot about Lean Startup methodology, so just something good to be familiar with.
I have a litany of them, but I will mention The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz. It came up in a conversation on Hub and Spoke last week, and it's really important, I think, the piece, and Andrew, if we had more time, I would love for you to go into more about building your team. But when you're really starting a company, like team is just about everything. And I think that as an athlete, you can really relate to that, how you interact, how you collaborate, who pulls their weight, who doesn't. And so that's sometimes something that gets overlooked. So I think that book does a really nice job of articulating the importance of selecting the right team.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I would just ask, Liz, Owen, Andrew, if you guys had any closing advice that you'd like to give or share to us young future entrepreneurs, that would be great.
I guess I'll start. That's such a a hard thing because I could probably sit here for 3 hours and just tell you everything I've learned that I hope you don't have to experience the hard way. Above all, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's take risks and don't be fearful of failure. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to start to transition my mindset post Davidson because, like being a student athlete at an academic college, you're almost an ingrained perfectionist in ways. So being willing to make those mistakes and adopting a growth mindset above all that's what's really helped me be successful.
And then again, I would just say if you have an idea, which I'm sure every person here does because you are here, just treat it like another class. Like I remember Andrew mentioned that he had meetings, once a week with his mentors. Just if you put the time in and allot time for that, where each week you have this time scheduled to work on it, that's how you're going to get stuff done and proceed and work towards that goal. So just allot time towards it and keep going.
My parting words too, which I agree with everything that's said, is that, or a couple things. One, entrepreneurial mindset is applicable whether you are going to start your own company, whether you're going to join a startup, whether you're going to go work for a large Fortune 50 company. I built businesses inside of Disney just as much as I did, working with the startup that I mentioned in 2016. So the skills that we are trying to offer and impart and the resources and all of that at the Hurt Hub are just as applicable if you have your heart set on joining Spotify as you do, going and starting your own thing. And I think too, just this is kind of a common misconception, but the average age of startup founders is 42. So while Owen and Andrew have seen great successes already, you don't necessarily have to do that right out of the gate, and you can still embrace a lot of the same mindset and framework and be really successful.
To Liz's point, something, just to keep in mind is, you can always start something. And a lot of people feel like, well, I need money now. It's okay to go out and just make money for 3 to 5 years while you're steadily working on other things. In Andrew's case, he went right out the gate and it worked for him. But what worked for him won't work for everyone. So really don't hesitate to start, working on stuff now, get a normal 9 to 5 and then keep going. That's something that can't be undervalued. The other thing is, I'm not a startup, but when I got to Davidson, I was starting a new program. I've had my biggest successes have all come from starting and getting relationships with a couple students that led to them passing that on to other students that got more buy-in. And I'm only a year in, but all of my success honestly is owed to the students like Tavis who are willing to buy in, and he's in a couple of the programs that I run. Mimi is on this call as well, and she's in our career ambassadors. So, start small. Networking can be scary to an extent, but don't think I need to go out and meet 20 people. Meeting 2 people, again, that compound interest, like Andrew mentioned, is really valuable. So, just feel okay moving at your own pace. Just don't worry about what everyone else is doing.
Well, I'd just like to thank Liz, Owen, and Andrew for the time that you guys took out of your day to give us a lot of information, a lot of experiential advice, and a lot of future resources as well to reach out to with any kind of questions, comments, concerns, ideas, or propositions. So thank you guys so much for the time and the knowledge, and we very much appreciate it. And thank you to all that join this call. And it's always great to see a good turnout whenever we can hear from former Davidson alumni. So thank you guys so much.